Every life has a story, and every story is worth sharing. Your story, my story, and our story speak of victory and defeat, joy and sorrow, resilience and vulnerability. They are not just our story, they are Christ's story in us. They are Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
She's a wife, she's a mother, she's a grandma, she's a mother-in-law. She's also a pastor, she's a preacher. She's a lover, she loves the Lord and loves the people around her. She's full of life, she's a dancer. And tonight, she's here to tell it all, to tell her story, to tell what Jesus has done in her life. It's an honor and privilege to have at Kingdom Stories from Down Under, Debra Kirby. Debra, welcome.
Thank you.
You know, we worked together for about 2 years or 3 years?
Maybe a little longer, 3.5.
3.5 years. But it is about 3.5 years ago that we worked together, I think. So we shared a lot. And, you know, even though we shared that much, I don't think we ever went deep to understand, you know, where we came from. So I just, I want to know a little bit more about you. You know, I've seen you look after your mother-in-law with Ralph, and but I've never met your parents. So, are they with us or?
No, my parents are in heaven.
Both of them.
Both of them. Yeah.
Did you grow up in Perth?
I grew up in Perth, in Short Hill.
Okay.
I was in the same family home for 59 years.
Wow.
My parents built their home just before I was born.
Yes.
And that was their home until my mother passed away about 5 years ago, and my father passed away 2 years ago.
Okay.
And only family home I knew.
Wow. That's beautiful. What was it like growing up in Perth?
I was one of 7 children.
Just like I am.
Yeah, one of 7 children. So family was everything.
How? Where in the pack were you?
Number 5.
Number 5.
And I have twin sisters, 23 months younger than me.
Wow. How many boys? How many girls?
5 girls, 2 boys.
Just like us. We're 5 girls.
Same?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
We got a lot more in common.
I didn't know that.
So you grew up, well, life must have been full of fun for you.
Well, I had a very different life to the rest of my family. From a little girl, round about 5, I loved to dance. So I started dancing from the age of 5. And I did jazz ballet and I did tap dancing. And
so the parents did take you to dance classes?
They did. Well, I pushed for it.
Yeah.
You know, there's 7 children, and so I really pushed for it. And
Okay.
so, yeah, they took me until I was old enough to go to school and catch a bus and then go dancing every single night of the week.
Well, different classes in different studios, or?
By the age of 10, I was doing ballroom dancing.
Okay.
And I did that until I was 25.
And you did Latin American dance?
Yeah, Latin American dancing.
Wow.
I specialised in that. Yeah.
And you even won a competition in that?
I won many competitions.
Okay.
So I started competing very early.
Yeah.
And from a very young age, just made the decision that I was going to be the best.
Okay.
And so I was on a mission.
Yeah.
Absolute mission. So my life was totally about dancing.
Yeah.
I left school at 15. I went to England and I went to Paris and I danced.
On your own?
Yep, on my own. I had coaches,
Yeah.
specialised coaches, because I actually found that I
Who
had
paid?
some ability.
Who paid?
My parents.
Oh,
Years after I stopped dancing, I still owed them money.
okay.
They did, and it wasn't easy actually.
No, it wouldn't
And
have
that-
been. I mean, tickets back then were an arm and a leg.
Yeah, and you know, they were glad that I was the only one that wanted to follow this path
Okay.
because of the expense,
Yeah.
the costumes and the dresses.
Yeah.
But at the age of 21,
Yes.
I actually won the World Latin American Ballroom Dancing Championships.
From Australia.
Yes, from Australia.
Where was
It was
the?
held here.
It was held in
It
Perth.
was held here in Perth.
Wow.
And
So who was your partner?
my partner, his name was Roger. And
Was he Australian?
He's Australian. He
So
still
two
lives in
Australians
Australia.
were
That's
were
right.
dancing, Latin dancing,
Yeah.
and winning it.
Yeah, and I think Germany came second, and I can't remember who came third. But it was a very big event in Australia for that at that moment, at that
Wow.
time, because that was in 1980.
So was it worth it for your parents then? Was that that climax?
They were so proud.
Okay.
You know, my dad was not a man that I saw cry, but I did see tears just rolling down his face at that night.
And your brothers and sisters were all there?
No, they weren't there because it was too expensive to buy a ticket to go and watch. It was just too expensive. But we were in the newspaper.
Yeah.
I was in the Women's Weekly.
Wow.
It was on television. So it was a very special time. And yes, my family were really proud.
Wow. What school did you go to?
Chewett College. Well, it's now called Chewett College.
Okay.
But it was Chewett Hill High School.
So did you finish high school?
No.
You didn't?
I left at 15. Well, my parents gave me the choice.
Yes.
I could either continue dancing
or
I could go on and be a phys ed teacher, which is what I would like to have done.
So
I didn't get the option to finish school.
So would you attribute your success to your hard work or to your coaches or to your passion?
A bit of everything, but I was driven. There wasn't anything else. I had tunnel vision that I was going to be the best, and that's what I was going to do.
Wow.
So it took a lot of years, took a lot of hard work, took a lot of training.
Yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so what were you working? Did you work as well during this time?
I worked for a health insurance company from the age of 15.
Yeah.
And the personnel manager there happened to love dancing.
Oh.
So there was.
She gave you a bit of a slack time.
Well, I think she allowed me to resign.
Yes.
Which I don't think. I know she allowed me to resign. I went over to England a few times for long periods of time, like 3 months at a time. Then she would give me my job back.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I worked for Woodside Offshore Petroleum.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened. I actually had to resign, and then they gave me a job back when I came back.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So when did you meet Ralph?
I met Ralph in 1985.
Okay. How old were you? 20. Not that we want to give your age away.
Oh, I don't mind. I'm proud of my age. I am. I'm 61. I'm 62 this year. I have no problem with that. I was 25 when I met him. I met him at Fast Eddie's, and he will tell you.
In Murray Street?
Yeah, it's moved now. It was moved now. It was on King Street, I think.
Oh,
King Street and Hay Street.
Okay.
But he reckons that night it was Fast Ralph.
Yes.
But it wasn't true. That's not true at all. That's how he tells the story.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wasn't a Christian when I was dancing.
Yes.
The interim between winning that world championship and then meeting Ralph, I became a Christian.
How did that happen?
Because I won this world championship.
Okay.
This was everything that I had dreamt of. It was everything that I had breathed. I hadn't done anything else. When I was in school, I used to look out that window and just dream about being the best in the world. So I achieved that.
You reached the Everest.
I did. There wasn't anything anywhere else to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 21.
Yeah.
I had done everything I wanted to do. I didn't have a plan B.
Oh.
So there was telegrams in those days.
Yes.
Being in the newspaper. I still have the newspaper clipping at home.
Nice.
It was very exciting.
Of course.
But I think it took about 1 month for me to sit down and go, what am I going to do for the rest of my life?
It started to wear off.
In a very short amount of time.
Okay, so fame doesn't do it, does it?
Not at all. Not at all.
So there was a hunger.
I was lost.
Okay.
I was really lost. If there was a hunger, I didn't know what it was for.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually enjoy living in the UK when I was there dancing.
Yes.
I didn't like the cold. I didn't like being away from all of my family.
Especially living with so many siblings around and noisy house and...
Oh, I miss them terribly. So the only way for me to do better was to go back there and continue that. And I found out I really didn't want to do that. So I became quite lost and really began to search with, what am I going to do for the rest of my life?
So your parents were not Christian?
No, not at that time. They weren't Christian at that time. So none of my family were at that time.
So what happened? How did you meet the Lord?
I worked at Woodside Offshore Petroleum.
Yes.
There was a young lady there. And I worked with the accountant and one of the accountant's assistants there. And she was new.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have these blotters on our desk. and we'd have phone calls and we'd write all over them. We'd write notes and take detail and, you know, throw them out when they were completely used up.
Yeah.
And she used to put 3 crosses at the top of her blotter.
Yeah.
Just like you would imagine. Well, we've seen in the movie The Crucifixion, 1 cross and 2 in the either
Smaller
side.
ones.
Yeah. Always intrigued me. She was a little different to the other girls in the office. She didn't socialise with the other girls in the office, and they really didn't treat her very nicely. And I quite liked her. I was intrigued by her. And she was beautiful. So we began to talk, and she invited me to go to a church family camp with her.
Okay.
Now, I didn't want to go. I really wasn't interested in church. I really wasn't interested in God. I believe in God. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
So she invited me to
So this is a camp?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a family camp down at Bustleton on the Australia Day long weekend.
So that was tempting.
Pardon?
It was tempting.
I don't know. I didn't want to go. I rang her every night of the week just to somehow tell her I don't want to go with you, but I wanted to be nice. I would get off that phone and I hadn't done it. Anyway, I went to this camp. Church service Friday night.
Yes.
Church service Saturday morning. Saturday night, Sunday morning, and Sunday night. Now, after every service, I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to cry.
Oh.
For some reason. I'd said to her, why do I feel like I'm going to cry after I come out of one of those things, you know? And
Sessions.
I was totally ignorant.
Yeah.
I was totally ignorant. I saw people lifting their hands,
Yeah.
worshipping God. It
Yeah.
was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. And I actually thought, I'm not going to get out of here. I've come for the weekend, they're not going to let me go home. But you know what? Something came through. And what came through was that God loved me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't love him back.
Mm-hmm.
That Jesus loved me and I didn't love him back. So by the Sunday night, the pastor had given an altar call. Is there anybody here? And all I knew out of all the messages was that I didn't love him and he loved me.
Yeah.
So I put my hand up and then he said, okay. A few minutes later, that person that put their hand up, will you put your hand up again? Now, I did not know. I was the only person in that whole family camp that was not a Christian. So I'm like, is this me? Do I put my hand up again? My heart is just beating, you know. And then, so, put my hand up again. I looked at him and he said, hold your friend's hand and pray. So I took my friend's hand. She begins to cry.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to pray.
Yeah.
I don't know what to pray.
Yeah.
So I just hold her hand, I close my eyes and I go, I love you, Jesus. I'm going to cry now. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. And I had an encounter where I saw simultaneously a black thing leave my body and a white thing fill my body. It was like whoosh. And I was changed in an instant.
You knew it was happening.
In a second. And I just knew that I'd met Jesus. And it's 40 years, Natanael, it is 40 years ago.
Wow. Just as vivid and as real.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
And I was off. I was running.
So, what did she do when she realized that you had given your life to the Lord, your friend?
She just cried and hugged me and hugged me.
Were you driving in the same car back?
No, this was in the... we were driving the same car back. Oh, that was a different ride back.
Of course.
To a different ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian worship music on.
So you came home and did you share it with your parents?
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay.
But this is the interesting thing. You know, through all my dancing days, I was pretty stressed out.
Yes.
I was very anxious. I was very nervous.
Yeah.
The obsessive thing was quite controlling. And I wasn't really a very nice person to be around for my family, sadly, because life was all about me.
Okay.
You would have probably not met a more self-absorbed person than what I was.
Especially with looks as well, I assume, because so much had to do with dancing, you know, looks have to do so much with dancing.
Absolutely.
Appearance. Yeah.
But my mother, knowing that I was going to this church camp, had actually prayed that God would do something with me.
That's nice.
I know. Because whilst I grew up in a home which I would have said was void of God,
Yeah.
it was that, it was never, we didn't believe in God.
Yeah.
I do remember going to kindergarten with the neighbours Sunday school with the neighbours when I was about 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I remember.
Yes.
I can clearly remember.
Yes.
Probably twice I went.
Yeah.
I can clearly remember. Out of all the years, so long ago, I can clearly remember what happened in Sunday school.
Nice.
Mm.
So you came back home, and what happened next?
I came back home.
Did you go with your friend to church, or?
I absolutely did.
What church was this?
It was Foursquare Church in Victoria Park.
Nice.
It was nice. Everything. Outside of dancing, I still danced a lot, but outside of that, I was in church. I was at my friend's house. Their family took me in for 6 months. I was there.
Oh, you moved in?
No, but pretty much.
Literally.
Yeah, pretty much. They just taught me everything they knew.
Did you get baptised in this time or not
I
yet?
got baptised in water, and then a few weeks later I got baptised in the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues.
And so the Foursquare Church encouraged this, or?
Absolutely.
They were?
Yeah.
Okay, Spirit-filled.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So how did you meet Ralph?
At Fast Eddie's, I was with a mutual friend he had been to Bible college with. So it was on a Sunday night.
So after church, you went there?
Yep.
The young people used to hang around in town?
Yep.
And was he in the same church or different church?
No, different church.
He was a believer as well?
Pardon me?
He was a believer?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Ralph was a Christian?
He had just done 2 years of Bible college at
Rhema.
then called Rhema.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was with a friend who was in Bible college with him.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you met, you were at the same table, you had dinner together?
No, not quite that much. He came and spoke to her.
Okay.
And talked to her. And I went home and I talked to God, and God told me, you're going to marry him.
Oh.
And I went, that's ridiculous.
So he hadn't spoken to you or anything, you just
a hello, but there is a key thing. I was about to go to Indonesia on my first missions trip.
Okay.
He had just come back from a missions trip.
Yes. Where?
So from Indonesia.
Okay,
also.
same place.
So we had been talking a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went home knowing that I was going to marry him.
Yeah.
I told God it was ridiculous and I shouldn't think like that. And that was in the month, I think, May. I think we started dating at the beginning of July. I went to Indonesia for the whole month of July. He proposed on the 25th of August when I got back, and we were married the following March.
Happened really fast. What attracted you to him? Do you remember what made it?
I remember the boldness.
Okay.
I wasn't really bold at that time. I was fairly timid. Because
he knew what he wanted?
Maybe, yeah. And
or at least he pretended to.
Yeah, I guess so. But the fact that Indonesia was a key thing, that I wanted to go and preach the gospel in the nations.
Yeah.
I knew that he wanted to do that.
Was he long hair? How?
No, it wasn't. It was pretty short. It certainly wasn't grey like it is now.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know that it was a physical attraction really. But it was an attraction.
Was it? You always had good gut feeling, like intuition? Were you strong in your intuition?
Not before I was a Christian. Yes, after. Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. And then you had, who was your first child?
Sarah.
Sarah
was born in 86.
Okay.
And Sarah's about to have her first baby.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting.
I mentioned to you I saw her at a traffic light the other day.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the...
I know, it's such a small world, and Christian circles are so small here.
I mean, I'm at these traffic lights and we're opening the windows and we're talking and she goes, "Are you Natanael?" Yeah. It's like, yeah, my mum, Debra. Yeah. it's just crazy.
I know, yeah. But she's beautiful.
Yeah,
she's beautiful. She's and then I had Nathan 19 months later.
Okay.
And Nathan has 2 children, Sullivan and Violet.
He was down in Albany for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah,
He's back in Perth now.
Yeah, he teaches at Foundation Christian School in Mandurah.
Nice. And they live Mandurah way?
Mandurah, yeah.
Nice.
And then 6 years
Joel.
later, I had a surprise. I had Joel.
Yeah, I know
Joel.
Joel really
Yeah.
well. We've journeyed with him. Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
3 children. How did your career develop?
Well, soon after being married, I
Yeah.
had Sarah, fairly quickly. I found 6 months after that I was pregnant, going to have her. I have never really wanted to be a career person.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do is to serve Jesus.
Okay.
Number one.
So where
And then-
did you establish yourselves? What church?
We were at Rhema.
Rhema.
Yeah, because we were there for over 10 years because Ralph had finished Bible school there.
Was he doing ministry there, or was he working there, or?
No, we were part of the ministry,
Yeah.
not in full-time ministry.
Yeah. Okay.
So
But quite involved.
absolutely, we've always been
Evangelism or more Bible
involved.
studies?
For Ralph is teaching, and we
Teaching.
used to go into the streets of Perth
Yeah.
and preach on the streets.
Have you
as
done
young
any mission
people.
work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Apart from the Indonesia trip?
Yeah. Well, we went on to Indonesia on our honeymoon,
Oh,
and then we've done many, many trips to Indonesia.
okay.
Indonesia is really, we have a love-hate relationship with
Okay,
Indonesia.
okay.
I love it,
Yeah.
but
Well, Ralph's been with me to
That's
the jungles
right.
of
Yeah, I
Indonesia
know.
as well.
I know, and he's a little bit more adventurous than me.
Yeah.
I may have led him to believe I'm more adventurous than I am when we got married.
Yeah.
But we've gone and we've preached in villages and had to bath in the river and and
He's pretty good on the motorbike.
Yeah. Oh, I worry about that. But
You survive.
we love that.
He loves the food though.
We love that.
He adapts
we
easily.
love the people. I
Yeah.
find the conditions a little hard,
Yeah.
but we love the people. We've got family in Indonesia.
So coming back to your career,
Yeah.
you were happy obviously to do the ministry, to
Yeah.
be at home with the children as well.
Yeah.
Not really thinking too much about a career, but at the same time, you wanted to do, was it more of a ministry kind of a job
Only
you
thing
were
I
looking
wanted
for?
to do. I didn't want to be employed in any other arena at all.
Okay. So what was one of the jobs that you did after you had the children?
I became a school chaplain.
Okay.
So yeah, that was just by chance. What happened, I was volunteering at the school my children attended.
Sure.
I volunteered for 2 days a week
Mm-hmm.
for 4 years as pastoral care assistant.
Wow.
And then during that time I needed to...
That was paid or not paid?
No, that wasn't paid. That was just as a volunteer.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to do, and I
Yeah.
love that. Being caring for families. And
Yes.
one of my passions for
Yeah.
young people is that children in Christian homes actually serve the Lord all the days of their life.
Beautiful. They don't need to have a period of falling
No,
aside or...
not at all.
Absolutely not.
And I mean, there is a part of my story that I think has really affected me and caused that passion.
Sure.
Because I found out well after I was married
Yeah.
that my grandmother was a Pentecostal preacher
Whoa.
and none of her children had served the Lord.
That's tough.
6 children.
Yeah.
So while I was delighted, what happened, my uncle,
Yeah.
who passed away at 106 months, had done some family history. He
Yes.
was looking into the family tree.
Yes.
And he found a newspaper clipping from 1927.
Yes.
And it was a picture of my grandmother,
Preaching.
my grandfather, the 6 children, outside a vehicle, saying there were overland missionaries travelling across Australia, not receiving any funds but relying on the provision and the generosity of parishioners.
Wow.
And I've got the photo framed in my house. So the revealing of that photo was
Yes.
amazing. And then when I spoke to my mother about it, she said
Yeah.
to me, your grandmother actually prayed for you when you were in my womb.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
That is amazing. But on the other hand, no one told me about Jesus. No one told me that I could be born again.
Yeah.
I mean, God had his hand on my life. I look back and he pursued me when
Yes.
I wasn't even looking for him. And so, God had just had me in the palm of his hand my whole life, but none of my family, none of my uncles, none of my aunties. So that was actually tragic and devastating.
But at the same time, it propelled you to leave a
Absolutely.
different legacy
Absolutely.
and to encourage people to hold on to faith and help their
Absolutely.
children hold on to faith throughout their teenage years and throughout all their lives.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful, and that's why in the school arena you were able to encourage the parents to do that, which is beautiful.
And I was working those 4 days a week. 2 days a week for 4 years in a Christian school.
Okay, and then they employed you as a chaplain.
Well, what happened is I went and got another job to pay the school fees in a government school.
Yes.
And then I was doing that 2 days. So I was working for the government school 2 days and the Christian school. Then the government offered me
A chaplaincy job.
And so I went and said I have to leave, and then they all raced around, and I was employed at the Christian school, ended up being employed for 11 years on top of my 4 years voluntary service. And you know, people would say to me, why would you be a chaplain in a Christian school?
Of course, you need a chaplaincy.
Yeah, but absolutely. I want those young people to serve God all the days of their life.
I mean, how many of the children were Christian? Not many. Not everyone was a Christian.
Not everyone, no.
Yeah.
You know, and how it worked.
Even if they came out of Christian families, a lot of them were not Christian themselves.
And a lot of times the story was, because what happened, children would graduate Kingsway, graduate the Christian school, and then they would come back later on wanting to put their own children in the school.
Yeah.
So I was a part of that interview process.
Yeah.
So the stories, I mean, hearing people's testimonies is wonderful.
Yes.
But there was a common theme where these young people would say, well, when I was 16, when I was 17, I just, walked away. I didn't want to do this, but now I'm 30. I've come back. I want to train my children in the ways of the Lord. But I remember this one interview. This young man came back and with his wife and his children, little ones, and he said, well, when I was 16, and in my mind I automatically thought, I know how this goes. He said, I just made a decision to get closer to God. And I went, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And whilst we train our children, and I believe in all of this, in music and sport and education,
of course.
Not at the expense of knowing Jesus.
Yeah, of course. And especially in the homes, in church, of course in church and in schools, but especially in the homes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you
then
gave the church
I actually went to be the family and children's pastor. My favourite job.
That's when we worked together.
That's where we met, and that was the most wonderful thing. And I guess I felt like that was me.
Children pastor. I know that in that time, your influence made us change the title from a children's pastor to a family and children's pastor.
Well, I didn't know that.
I don't think that title was there before. I think that title was given now because we wanted to influence not just the children, but also to pastor the families with children, which is great.
And I remember at that time, I guess the families with children was about 40 families with children.
Yeah.
And that was a precious time for me. I love that.
It was a good time. We had some great years there.
Yeah. And
you were also preaching on a big stage there.
And teaching.
Were you
and
nervous
events.
when you first preached there?
No, I don't. By then, I don't think I was, because I had preached a little bit. I think I was more excited.
Yes,
when I started preaching there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did get a little nervous because you care about what you do. You care about what you say. When I started preaching not long after I became a Christian.
Yeah.
And I used to get terribly nervous and terribly really fearful.
Yeah.
But then one day, I just realised none of it was about me.
Yeah.
Not one bit was about me.
Can I share something with you?
Yeah.
You actually influenced me in one of the things that you I don't know if you remember, but you spoke once about the Lord's Supper. You held a sermon on the Lord's Supper.
Yeah, I did.
Communion. And you went quite deep in that part where it says that, we are not worthy. Well, in fact, no one is worthy, but then everybody is worthy. And let me tell you something, I listened to that a few times, that section, because I didn't hear it so well explained by anybody before. Yeah. And I know you challenged me with the Lord's Supper to children, and my view before coming to Churchlands was that, you only serve the Lord's Supper, once you've made the commitment to follow the Lord. I mean, it's for God's children. Yeah. It's not for everybody. And obviously, while we were in that church, we didn't filter We didn't feel the saved, unsaved. We didn't feel the children. Children were coming to the Lord's table. And I wasn't that comfortable with everything, also baptizing younger children. And then I thought, but I didn't resist it. I allowed it to happen. But it made me go deep. It made me research. It made me understand that, looking at Passover, how the whole family was together and they were enjoying the Passover. And, what I want to say is that you challenged me to search, to look deeper into it. And what did it for me was, while I was studying this communion aspect, I came across the two men that were traveling on the road to Emmaus after the resurrection of Jesus. They were walking with the Lord and they didn't know it was Jesus. He just came back to life. And then something amazing happens. They go to an inn or somewhere for the night, or in their home, or they got home, and the Lord breaks bread with them. Yeah. And in the moment when he breaks bread with them, which was the Lord's Supper, they got a revelation of who he was. That's when they realized it was Jesus. And then I thought, well, people will get a revelation of who Jesus is when they break bread. So even though they may not actually understand what is going on while they're breaking bread, I believe they can get a revelation of Jesus when they break bread.
That's awesome.
So that's what did it for me. And also for the children, I also thought that this is, for us it's a sacrament. For the children it's not a sacrament because they don't understand fully. But it's instructive. And it's bringing the family together. So it's not actually anything bad with it or anything, So just know that seed that was planted in there stirred me up to go deeper and to change me and to seek the Lord to get a deeper understanding. And that's where the revelation came.
That's wonderful.
So even last night here at church, we had a graduation, and one of the gentlemen that came across, he's a consultant, he's a specialist, obstetrician, he's my neighbor. And he's not Christian. And he came and he actually had a word at the graduation. He shared about experiences with God, and he's not a Christian. And he shared in the Lord's Supper. And I believe that a revelation of Jesus came through to him because he was so grateful and thankful. He messaged me afterwards. And I believe something has shifted in his life through that night. So it's interesting that, a few years on, you're probably hearing this now and you don't realize it. So just know that if I was touched, I'm sure many other people were touched by your ministry there. So well done.
Thank you. Well, communion is very special to us.
And I know you guys have it a lot in your family as well.
In our family, absolutely. And it's valued. And I believe when we have communion and we honour Jesus, that there's a transaction that occurs.
Yeah. Which is beautiful. Now, you also experienced some really crushing moments in your life.
Oh, gosh, we have. We've been through some things.
Yeah.
We have. Honestly, the enemy's tried to wipe out all of us at some point.
Yeah.
Actually, physically tried to take our lives. Can I share one story about me with you? When I was working at the school.
Yes.
And I was transporting, going from one campus to another to present at an assembly. Mm-hmm. And an 18-wheel road truck hit me, hit the back of my car.
Wow.
Spun the car around to the point where I had the wheel at my ear here.
Yes.
Pushed me up the road 100 metres and flipped me up onto the verge. It was peak hour, it was in the morning, and there was a lot of traffic just coming that way. And not only was there one 18-wheel road train, there was two behind me.
This on Wanneroo Road?
On Wanneroo Road.
Wow.
On a verge up to Tapping it was.
Yeah.
And this car obviously did not see me.
Yes.
the truck, and he put his brakes on, but took him 100 metres to stop.
Yes.
The other one just went straight past up there. So while that was happening, my passenger, who is a Christian, is screaming for Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, screaming. I have complete clarity of thought, and I remember thinking, I'm the school chaplain, I should be the one praying right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, by the time the car stops,
Yes.
it then all comes crashing on me, and I just start crying and crying. Ambulance comes, police come from everywhere.
Were you stuck in the car?
No, I wasn't stuck in the car. I didn't touch the sides of the car. The wheel of the truck was here,
Yeah.
but there was a space between me and the car. The car was crushed, if you saw it, but it didn't touch me.
Yeah.
And obviously had to go to the hospital. It was, looked quite awful. And I went home that afternoon, and I remember I'd been in the hospital for quite some time having a shower, and I remember at that given time of the accident, it went completely dark. So dark in my car.
Yeah.
And I had said to my husband, Ralph, I said, why would it have gone dark? I said, there was a shadow. And he goes, no, you were going the wrong direction. The shadow would have been the other way. And I remember saying, God, why was there a shadow?
Yeah.
And then it came to me. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty.
Yeah.
I was completely
Covered.
protected, completely covered. A week later, on the news, there was a similar accident where 2 people lost their lives. When I had to go to the police station, they said to me, we have no idea how you survived that. And if the trucks were loaded, which they were empty,
Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
horrendous. And probably the worst thing, the hardest thing that we've been through is having one of my children attempt to take their own life.
Yeah.
Not once, 3 times.
Being a counselor, being a pastor, being a preacher,
Absolutely.
you're not sheltered, are you?
And working at the same time, and not at all.
It's real.
It is real. But in all of these things, my daughter went through a period of time where she had an autoimmune disease.
Yes.
And I remember being at the hospital with her. This is outside of the other child. And them coming in to ask us how we can prepare our home for having someone who can't physically walk, for wheelchairs, for everything, because they didn't have any answers.
Yeah.
And that it's possible that she would not walk. She was 22, just finished her uni degree.
Yeah.
Got a virus, and then it just developed from there. And I remember sitting there with the social worker, just thinking, you are kidding me. No, it's not going to happen.
You went through the period while Rima went through the Word of Faith. Were you in that season?
After. That was actually, round about that time. Yeah.
Okay, so you experienced that
Absolutely.
move of God.
Absolutely.
Because the city is quite touched by that. So the people that were in Rima in that period are quite strong in their faith.
Yeah. I would have said we are.
You are?
Yeah, we're strong enough. I have probably been a better praying mum than I have been a wife.
Yeah.
But I have always believed in praying preventatively.
Okay.
You don't wait for the accident to happen.
Yes.
So when I brought my babies home
Yeah.
from hospital,
Yeah.
I remember my first child, I read the Word of God to her. I went to a ladies' meeting. I've got 2-week-old baby.
Yeah.
And I said to these women, I have been reading the Word of God to my daughter. Do you know what they said to me?
You're nuts.
They said, why? She's not going to understand it.
Oh.
I went, you are kidding me.
Have no idea.
You are kidding me.
Yeah.
That, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
But the Word of God is sharper than a 2-edged sword. There's life in the Word.
Yeah.
So I have done that and done that preventatively.
Yeah.
So it can be quite devastating when you come against these these trials in your life that you
Yeah.
know aren't sent by God. And I think that's the key to overcoming. You have to know they're not sent by
No,
God.
no, absolutely. It's
Because
the
we have
enemy.
never blamed God for anything that we've been through.
No.
We know that Jesus,
You also
you know,
were blessed immensely with Ralph, because Ralph
Oh,
is a man of faith as well.
100%.
So he's always there
Yeah.
with you.
And we've always warred together.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We war.
Yeah. I think that is the key, the unity, the oneness,
Yeah.
to stand firm.
Absolutely. And you know what? The gift of the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues
Yeah,
is the most precious gift.
yeah,
Because in times, I remember when my child was in a mental health ward,
yeah,
in a locked ward. Your emotion, you're devastated, you know what to do.
overwhelmed.
To be able to pray in tongues
Yeah,
and then have God speak to you and tell you what to do.
wow,
And he spoke to me, he said, you speak to that child's future.
yeah,
And that's what we did. My husband was involved in a rollover with one of my children in a van. The van was crushed so much, we don't know how he got out of the car.
mm.
We always win.
Yeah. Well, you are
Honestly,
here to tell the story.
We always win. And I think the beauty of getting older and serving God and staying there is you have testimony.
Yeah,
You get to see how he keeps you, how he holds you, how he can bring you through everything.
yeah. So all your children are in faith, in the
Yeah,
faith.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's no greater joy than teaching my grandchildren about Jesus.
What a beautiful season of life, isn't it now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And at the moment you're working for the Department of
I
Education.
actually work now for the Department of Education,
Yes.
which is very interesting.
Yeah.
I was asked to come and work for them, but what I do, it's a very pastoral role because I work with 15-year-olds who really don't want to be in school.
Okay. So you help them finish school.
I help them either get back into school or I help them find another pathway,
Okay.
help them continue their education and training,
Beautiful.
and support the families.
It's a ministry in itself.
It is
It's
a
a
ministry
job, but
in
it's a
itself.
ministry.
It is. It is a ministry. I get to meet all different types of nationalities, which I
Yes.
love.
Yes.
Different people. You've got single mums, you've got single dads, you've got some young people who aren't able to live with their biological family.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would never have imagined that this role was a gift to me. I would never
Yeah.
imagine that I'd be working in this role.
What's one of the causes that you see, that you identify in their stories? Is there something you can pinpoint?
Oh,
What's missing?
Family breakdown.
Family breakdown.
Without a doubt, family breakdown.
Yeah.
And it's generational.
Okay.
You know, parents who haven't been parented.
Absence
parents who
of
haven't-
fathers as well.
Absolutely, and parents who haven't been educated themselves.
Yeah.
And yet they want something better for their young people,
Yeah.
but they don't know how to get there.
Mm. Wow.
Mm.
What would you like to be remembered for? What's a legacy you'd like to leave behind?
Oh gosh, that I just loved Jesus and served him all the days of my life.
Yeah.
That's it.
So when your grandchildren speak to their
Yeah.
children and grandchildren about Debra, what would you like them to say?
That grandma was a lady of prayer,
Yeah?
a lady of worship,
Yeah.
that God and family were the most important things in her life.
Yeah. You know, there's a glitter in your eyes when you say that.
Mm.
It's just beautiful. You're full of hope.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing this beautiful story.
Mm.
We are enriched by your story. And yeah, share it as much as possible wherever you get the opportunity, because God's triumph in you brings glory to Him. Well done, Debra.
Thank you.
Well, there's another beautiful story that just lifts us up, doesn't it? It helps us carry on the good fight. And if you're feeling crushed at the moment, or you're going through difficult situations, know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that you will get through this. Just speak the words of faith. And as Debra said, start praying preventatively. Pray in advance. Let the Spirit guide you into what to pray to protect your family, to guard your mind, to guard your spirit, to guard your heart as well. And you will see God's hand at work in your lives. This is Kingdom Stories from Down Under, and if you love this content, please do share it with other people, enrich their lives as well, bless them with this content. Do give us a star rating, hopefully 5 stars, because we love 5 stars. And share it. Share the good news around. And if you have any feedback that you'd like to give us or comments, we're always here to listen and encourage others. Bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Stories from Down Under. We'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and share these stories with your wider community. And remember, every story is worth sharing, including yours.